Okay, welcome. It is Monday, 9th of August, 2021. This is Part of My Journey, episode 9. And today I've got comedian Richard Wilson, who's also host of a podcast, mental health podcast, Insane in the Men Brain, and also Kilo1977. And we're going to be talking about mental health. We're going to be talking about a bit of DJing, about comedy, music, 45s, and sweets, hopefully, later on. I know that Kilo's a big sweet fan like me, but let's bring everyone in, and we will then say hello. So, Rich, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for joining us. You are the first non-45s DJ I've got on the show. So I'm sort of expanding a little bit and trying to get some guests, because you're still into your music, aren't you? 'Cause you're still DJ.
Absolutely love my music. It's all packed away at the minute, which is why I didn't bring any 45s. I've got vinyl with me, but do you know what else is interesting as well? Like, you see these things like people doing interviews on the news, and they've got all their best books behind them and all that. And then you guys have got you're in your wonderful studio. Kilo1977 is in his wonderful room. I've got my washing. I mean, they're good socks, they're Vans, but you know,
they got skulls on them from the looks of things.
Were you out showing American football earlier on, Rich?
Oh yeah, that's my flatmates. We've got 2 awards on the side, but they're not mine. They're James Acaster's. He never collected them.
He has too many of them, doesn't he?
Too many.
Scratch out his name and put yours instead.
Good times.
Yeah, we'll come back to the podcast in a minute, and then we've also got Kilo. How you doing, Kilo?
Oh, good, mate.
Good. It's good to have you on the show. We were talking just before, because you used to do quite a few streams. You've had a bit of a break, but you're coming back on Saturday, aren't you? You're doing a stream for the 3-day mental health awareness raid that we're doing on Twitch.
Yeah, I'm playing on Saturday night, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, looking forward to getting back. Like I haven't streamed since the end of June, and before that, then was back in May. So yeah. So it's been a while now. I took a break from it, and yeah, looking forward to getting back into it now for a bit.
Cool. We've got Double P's in the house. I'm going to say a big shout out to him. It was Paul who first inspired me to start the show, and he was on the first show that we did, and he was also on one. He was on the one that we did during the last 3-day mental health awareness raid, because it was his idea to sort of do the raid in that. So big shout out to Double P, and he's playing over the weekend as well. Right, Rich, let's start with you. I've been listening. Kilo got me into what you were doing in terms of the podcast stuff, and he said you could go and listen to Rich, and I've listened to quite a few, and I'm catching up today with some of them as well. But how did you first get into it in terms of these specific podcasts, and what was it about mental health that you thought was so important that it was a good topic to go with?
It just kind of happened, really. It started. I'd been through. I was married for a bit, and then that broke up sadly. And then off the back of that, I went and had some therapy, and I'm starting to, because I've had some problems, and I started to tell them, and instead of them going, all right, yeah, cool, they started to tell me about what they'd been going through. They went, mate, I had therapy a little while ago, and it was this and this and this. And then someone else went, I studied as a psychologist, and we suddenly had this amazing conversation. And I started to be in other green rooms with other comedians, and I was doing the same thing, and everyone started to sort of open up. And at the same time, I did a podcast. I did Hardcore Listings, which is Stu Whiffin and Chris Glasson, which is through the Distraction Pieces Network for Scroobius Pip.
Oh, yeah.
I did their podcast. And then I finished that. And then later on, there was a guy that works for them on the podcast, Brad Acton. And he messaged me, and he just said, I think you should do a podcast. I think you've got something, but I think you can do it. And I'm like, I don't really know what to be about. Anyway, he came over, and we sort of recorded one episode. And it was like me interviewing him. And then he started to tell me stuff about him, stuff he'd never said before. And I suddenly realized, I'm like, this should be about men opening up, because men don't do it. We like you and I, we've just met properly, but we're having a bit of a chat. We're kind of like, good studio, that's cool. Oh yeah, I'm into that. But it takes a lot for men to kind of go, do you know what? I watched the other day and I cried my eyes out. It takes a lot for us to admit that we're having emotional issues. And then I was sitting on my bed one day, and I built up a few interviews already. I'd interviewed the actor Michael Smiley and a few others, and I'm like, what am I going to call this? What am I call this? And I just remember when I used to listen to Cypress Hill, Insane. When I listened to Insane in the Membrane, I just went. I used to think it was membrane and not membrane, and then I went Insane in the Membrane. Oh my god, that's the one. That's it. Shit. And then I just sort of fell back on the bed, like star shaped, like that. Like, yeah, I'm a genius. I'm a genius. I'm going to tell you now. I don't care. I don't care. It's the best podcast name out there, bar none.
That. Yeah.
I agree. It's great, and it's still the thing is, it's still a classic tune. I mean,
absolute tune.
I went because part of this has been a lot of us DJs have been on Twitch, and obviously a lot of us have met because of the 45s culture. And again, similar to what you're saying, people started reaching out and started talking to me, and Double P was telling me about some of the things that he was going through. And then I was like, okay, well, do you want to talk about it on, do you feel like talking about it on a show? And then that's how it sort of snowballed into what it's become. But yeah, it's such a great tune, and we finally got to meet up with some of the other 45s DJs this weekend on Friday. I went down to Southend and then over to Chelsea and got to see some of them. And DJ Andy Smith from Portishead was playing, and he actually played Insane in the Membrane on that night. And I was like, this has been meant to happen.
It's one of those that the three of us, I imagine, have listened to that song must be a million times.
Yeah.
And never, ever, it always catches me unawares how great it is. I'm like, oh, every time I hear it, I just go, oh, it just gets me, It's
a fucking timeless track.
But it's like you don't want to play it because everybody will play it, but when you play it, everyone just loves it when you play it. it's just like
it's
popular
like
music is popular music. It's love.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because that is proper 90s, mid 90s, and that is like 25, 26, 27 years old. But the kids today still love it, and it's interesting how some songs have sort of retained their popularity so many years after. I mean, the other ones Jump Around. Obviously,
yeah.
You can drop Jump Around and people will go crazy, and it's just it's great. Kilo, so tell us a little bit about your sort of musical background and your sort of DJing life for people who might not have called it before.
Right, what's next week? I'm DJing about since I was about 18. Started out playing a lot of house music and then when I was about 21, I just changed, like all genre, just kind of went after all big beat stuff and just started DJing that for years. That's what I've always kind of played. But then a few years ago, just with Steve, like from the 7-inch collective, we when we set up our thing, like that was the first time I really started kind of collecting 7s. I always collected 7 inches anyway. But it was never kind of segregated in the sense that it was just 7 inches, and that it was just everything came together when I was DJing because I just wanted to play on vinyl. I would get nerdy about 7 inches, certain songs. I'd always like be replacing albums that I'd buy with 7 inches, get the single off it, get rid of the album, and kind of carry on like that. So I had a big enough collection of 45s. But then when Steve set up the 7-inch collective, that's about 4 years ago now. That's when that happened. And then sure, it was Lob, like Mr. Lob. Then came across Steve. Steve was doing his stuff last year when we were all in isolation. He started putting up a lot more mixes onto the Mixcloud, and Mr. Lob came across him that way, and that's how we ended up getting involved in the 45 kind of kings and stuff like that. So it was through him. But 45 thing is it's only a thing I do with Steve. Now I have it separated like that. I keep it separate, like but other than that, it wasn't like that. I played everything.
Well, that's the way to be, but I think the problem is when you start going down the 45s route, it's very addictive and it's expensive as well these days, as we all sort of know. But there's just something about
yeah, it's a tough grind. 45s, like, you know what I mean. When like, but having a budget for vinyl a week is a luxury, like, you know what I mean. And I get to enjoy it, like, maybe a record or two a week, like, maybe, you know. But it's tough sometimes when you're there looking at releases that, you know, like, will be 50 quid in a few weeks, and you haven't got that one, you know. And it's hard. You're there, you're tuning in to Twitch, like, and everyone has new records sometimes every week, like, that's what it seems like, but it's not that, like. And, you know, that was something that I found very interesting with Twitch was how many DJs would change their set, because I'd never do that. Like, I would work stuff like, all this behind me is all in order of sets. These are all sets played that I've been building for years. So this is like all electro swing and all, and I've been adding to that for probably about 10 years. And the same over here is all breakbeat, and it all gets taken back down from what I'm working with. So I'd keep doing sets. So I'd find that when I'd be on Twitch, and this is one of the reasons I stopped, was I'd be repeating my set, and I'd be nervous that people would be like, "Oh, no, we played that fucking record last week and the week before." But in my mind, I'd be adding in another record. and I'd be practicing a mix, and I'd continuously do that. And that's how I've always worked. So I find it mad to go on. Like, I'd be like, my set would have to be my set. Like, you know, I'd be in my head. Like, I'd come in, and I just found that, kind of thing. Like, so I would get obsessed with certain styles of genres of music. For instance, like, I'd go on nothing but like swing stuff for a while, or go into electro, start collecting breaks again. And I do this for periods of time. So I'd start working off different stuff. But like with the 7-inch stuff, then it's just this non-stop race to collect. Every week there's like at least 37 inches released. And sometimes it could be just so disheartening, like, you know, so disheartening.
The problem is, it's not just you know, you've got your Discogs, which you've got your secondhand stuff, and then you've got your Juno, and then you've got, you know, everyone's, it's Twitch has been strange. I mean, I think when I first started, like you, I would get my sets ready, and, you know, I started on CDs and USBs, and because of it being at your house now, you've got all your records around you. So you've almost got an endless amount of things. So I find I try not to plan. I dig out a load of records, chuck them on the side, and I'm like, right, okay, let's see how we go through. And it's just how it takes you. But because of Twitch, it doesn't really matter, because people are just there to listen, and there's no pressure to get a dance floor.
Oh, it's right.
Continuing, you know.
So I'd end up here on Saturday night drinking, like, and I could play for 5-6 hours straight. Like, I was in here one night, and drank 16 cans and played for 6 hours, like, fell out of the room, like, and it's just like, it's not knowing when to stop. And you come into the room the next morning, and there's just records everywhere, and it's like, I played that, oh my god, like, and I'm ringing Matty the next night, and I'm like, oh man, was I bad at the end of the night? I'm deleting the video, going, oh, I was hammered on Twitch last night. You know? And it's, you know, it's a different world, all right, having all the records here, but it's also a problem as well. Like,
it's bringing, talked about it before, in terms of it's the vulnerability of bringing people into your home effectively. And I know we've all sort of moved things around and make it look like a studio, but it's a very interesting concept that we've got running here. Rich,
when I've DJed a couple of times online, and it's normally we wouldn't, like, you've got your sets that you know what you're going to play, like you say, and people keep coming up and giving you, have you got this, have you got that, and you're like, no, I know what I'm doing, I'll do this. But what I realised is that doing it online, people get involved in the chat, and then they go, stick this one on, stick that on, and sometimes they get it right, and like you get that, like you were saying about the random 45s, you get that. You know what should come next. When you've been doing it enough, there's a feeling. You just go, when a song pops in, you go, that is exactly what will follow this. I've got it. And it just, this sort of like chemistry starts to happen. This is why it annoys me when people die. You're just playing other people's records. You go, no. There's a chemistry to this. There's a chemistry to this that you can fuck up a dance floor by dropping the wrong tune. And you know this. You've probably all done it where you've gone, this one's going to go off, and it's like everyone just leaves. Oh, no, shit. So, but what I found was opening the chat up and getting people involved. And they go, oh, whack this one on, whack that one on. It made it more of a party vibe. So it was good fun to do it at home. It was it wasn't like you say, you weren't trying to keep a dance floor up in the air, but it was a different atmosphere.
It was that interesting.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got it.
That's kind of one of the things that I found though with it was because you're not keeping the dance floor there, like you can get away with playing so much more. And see, that's where I would end up like come like 1 o'clock, I'd be fully trashed, and that'd be it. It'd be trash metal, it'd be all out, like I'd be air guitaring and all, like, and you know, and they'd be and you'd never get those opportunities to play that. So that was something that I do love about Twitch. And you'd be surprised then who'd comment and go, "Whoa, I like that," you know. And you look up and like the next morning, you're like, after having a lot of viewers watching it, and you're going like, "Oh, I can't believe someone would be interested in that much mayhem," like, even, you know. It is it is social media, like, jacked up. Twitch is, like, you know, because it's so instant gratification, like, if you do well, and you can feel it, like, you know, you see it there, and you can see other DJs doing it, like, and they go along and they're putting their heart and soul into a little mix, and it's just like, could have been practicing it, and it just goes past, and everyone's at home and they're just watching it. And plenty of people are actually enjoying the little mix, but nobody's kind of going, "Wow, that was a great mix." Sometimes they do, like when it's Scratch Bastard or something, but such a simple little thing that you might have worked on, you know, it's kind of, it's funny like that. I do find that as well. Like, you see it on Twitch, it's like, oh God, you miss looking up and just seeing somebody just rocking their head. They don't have to be interacting with you. You just want to see your man at the bar, you know, and he's clocking it for a minute. He's having his day done, and he just goes, "Oh yeah," you know what I mean? Instead of remembering it, like,
it's the same as comedy. It's the same as comedy. Like, we comedians thrive off the energy of the crowd. So when you're hitting it, when you're having the gig of your life, and the audience are with you, like the energy's coming back off them, and you just bounce along. It's like you're crowd surfing almost. You're just like bam, 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 bam. And I've missed that when we've been doing Zoom gigs or wherever, like Twitch gigs and things. There isn't. You're basically trying to make your laptop laugh, and you can see everyone's head. Yeah, and they just kind of sat there like that, looking, and you're just like, "Oh, this is terrible." And like you say, when you're having DJ'd outside, when I remember DJing on a clothing store at Glastonbury, and I was just doing it, and I looked up, and the whole store was just bouncing, and it was better than any gig I've ever done. It was just, everyone was just there. It was like the tent was going to levitate. We were just having it, and it was just, well, it was bang, 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 bang. And it's great doing it via social media and things like that. But I like also the energy of being outside and amongst people and watching
really
people.
Be a big thing for a comedian.
Sorry, man. Go on.
Sorry, Kilo.
Sorry, I'm saying it must have been a really weird experience for a comedian, because you can't, like, ha in the chat box is not funny.
Lol. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I did a gig.
It's
Yeah, it's a weird one. I did a gig. It was live streamed, the gig, but there was nobody in front of me. So there's no audience in the room with me. I was literally on a stool, and he had 2 cameras. Everybody watching the cameras, minding the cameras, was downstairs in the basement. So I'm literally in a room on my own, just talking. I didn't know if it was funny. I didn't know if I was doing it. It just turned into a monologue in the end. I started ranting about the government and ranting about this and that. And it wasn't so long. I watched it back, and then everyone's going, "Mate, that was cool. That was cool, man. You got quite introspective at one point." I'm like, so I think what we can take from what's gone on in the last 16 months or however long it's been is that all of us learned a new set of skills, you know, We all know now how to DJ from our homes. We know how to do comedy and do gigs from our homes. So I think, and there's some people that never left the house before, people that are bedbound, people that are, they have disabilities, or they have anxiety, or they have autism, or something that keeps them at home. They now suddenly felt part of something else. They felt part of it. They didn't have to go to raves. They didn't have to go to gigs. They were part of it because we were doing it to them. And I think that's something that we do need to keep in mind and do need to keep doing. Like, we think more things should be live streamed from now on, to remember that there are some people that never went out in the first place, you know?
Yeah. That's very true. I mean, it's like you say, we've all built skills. I mean, you know, we're all broadcasters effectively now, you know, and you know, it probably would never have happened, you know, if it hadn't been for the pandemic. You know, it may have happened eventually, but not in the same way. I think we all got forced online, and we had to see how we could make our creativity. And I think, again, listening to some of your podcasts, you know, it's helped a lot of our mental health. It certainly helped my mental health just to have something, because, you know, I'm not a massive DJ or anything like that, but I was DJing pretty much every Friday night or every Friday and Saturday night, festivals, gigs, you know, here. So suddenly to have that cut off was really difficult. And it took a little while to get into the stream when we got there. But, you know, I mean, Rich, you sort of described that, but, you know, how did that hit you? Can you remember back to when the pandemic hit and suddenly all the gigs stopped and you were like, you know, when am I going to be back? You know, when are we going to be able to be back to normal? Well, normal.
It was, I remember, because it was coming. They would, like, people were saying shit's about to hit the fan, and we were kind of like, nah, you know, we've been near this before, we'll be fine. And I just remember suddenly there was the press conferences had said that the lockdown was coming. And I remember just being stood in my kitchen at the time, and my phone rang, and then within 20 minutes, I'd lost everything. All my gigs had just gone within 20 minutes. I was booked to do the Soho Theatre. This was like a big thing for me. It was like, I'm doing Soho Theatre. This is Rich Wilson, who used to drive a van, is now playing the Soho Theatre. Are you kidding? This is incredible. And they went, yeah, we don't know when we're coming back, but we're all shutting down. And it just went. And you're like, I was strangely zen about it.
Get a reset on that.
Huh?
That doesn't get reset. That moment in time is gone. Unfortunately, like, the truth about it is like that moment's gone. With your restrictions now, the way they are, is that chance for those gigs to be back? Because we can still gig here, like. We're under mental restrictions with gigging. Every gig that's going on has to be like pods. You're all sitting at a table of 6. Like, you have to buy a table. Yeah. I looked at a gig there today, and it was like, to buy a ticket was 130 quid. You had to pay for the table. And it's up to you, but you can only put 6 at that table. And and like we can't walk to the Oak, but I'm just asking, are you getting back to full gig, like, back full on? Will you get back to the Soho?
I've been back to the Soho Theatre. It all got put back on, but there was still restrictions in place. So people still had to wear their masks. They still had to be in their little pods. But now what's happened, I think, from last week before, we're now allowed back out. We're allowed to be in amongst each other. There's no pods. You still have to wear masks to go to the toilet and things like that. But when you're sitting down, you don't have to wear your mask. We are now, like, it's almost like the government have gone, good luck. You know, we've done our best. Off your pop, see how you fare. They've done that herd mentality that they talked about at the beginning seems to have come in, and they're going like, off you go. So the gigs are back. They're getting to feel like they used to feel. But that first lockdown, I just thought it was never coming back. But I was strangely zen about it. I just kind of went, well, everyone's in the same boat. People have lost more than they've lost more than I have. They've lost loved ones, and they've lost all sorts of them. So you kind of get your head around it. And then I went off and did some painting and decorating jobs. I did labouring. I worked at my friend. There's a friend of mine. They've got a t-shirt company called Save Our Souls Clothing, which is like tattoo designs. And they were doing it. Their stuff's all online. So they just went, come and work here, mate. So I went and worked for them, printing their T-shirts. And you kind of found other things to do to try and, pay the bills, keep the money coming in. But if it hadn't been for the podcast, I think I would have been lost. It genuinely, having that to do every week kept me linked to what I did, what my career, my job basically. And then I got to talk to Heston Blumenthal. I got to talk to Ramesh Ranganathan. I got to talk to all these people that were also locked in. And that was another thing as well. You don't realise that it doesn't matter what level people are on. Everybody was locked in. Everyone was locked down. Yeah, across the board. Everyone that you've ever heard of was like indoors.
Leveler.
It was a real leveler. Exactly. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Well, we've said that before on this show. It's certainly for the DJ side, and obviously clearly comedians and everything and all the arts and all the rest of it. But it's leveled the DJ platform. The fact that you can watch Jazzy Jeff or Scratch Bastard in your own house, whereas before you'd have to go to another country and get on a guest list and get and then potentially play on the same lineup as them or in the same show or something. It's been bonkers, and it's the shared, not mentality, but the shared moment that we've all had. We're never going to forget this. Even in 10 years' time, it'd be interesting to see what our kids make of it. And what they remember of lockdown and all the rest of it. But for us, it's this isn't going anywhere. We're going to remember this, and I just hope that we still remember it in 5-10 years time and appreciate what we've got in 5-10 years time when we're going to gigs and all the rest of it, and don't take it for granted, because I think that's something that we perhaps were all doing before. We took it all for granted.
Absolutely we were.
It's just away from us, and suddenly the rug's pulled out from us and we're all like, right, what the hell do we do now?
It's funny you mentioned Jazzy B. I did a festival with him beginning of September last year. So we were doing outside gigs, so people were in their cars, in their little, they were like divided up into their little garden areas, and it was in Henley. I mean, so Soul to Soul were on. It was Gabrielle, Kaiser Chiefs, Steve Harley, Groove Armada did a DJ set on the Friday night, and it was interesting again, like seeing these people that are used to playing arenas and playing this. They were like Ricky Wilson was pacing up and down, going, I don't know what to do. This is going to be, because everyone's in their cars, like they can't react in the same way. There's no one in front of you to get a reaction from. And it was interesting on the Friday night. So that was the first night. Everyone was sort of sat in their cars in their little gardens. Groove Armada came on to do a DJ set, and there was like a Pavlovian response where everybody just went, we're in a field, this is Groove Armada, we're having this, and they all shot down the front. They ignored where they were parked up, and they all ran down the front, and they were going bananas. Everyone was going nuts. So night they had to put in barriers and more stewards and things like that. So one thing we learned from this, you can't put Groove Armada on in a field and expect everyone to sit in their cars just flashing their light.
Well, it's weird, isn't it, playing car parks and really, so that people would beep their horns if they found something funny or flash their light. I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it, really? But it's I mean, with Twitch we've got it slightly different because people drop emotes and fire emotes and all these sort of figures and stuff. But,
there is that interaction with Twitch, all right, that does help, that you can see that, but that's another one, like with it though as well, like the kind of the no mic and the chat, like, because I kind of like a lurk channel where I'm just playing. I don't interact much with the chat. I'll answer the chat now and again, or I have a few things I put up in it, but I'm so content with people just having it on in the background, and that kind of way of listening to it. But I do there is sometimes that you're just looking for someone to just throw up a little fire emoji, all right, But I just, one thing I wanted to ask you, Rich, was with performing, and you were saying there you were performing a monologue then on when you were doing the streaming, right? And you were streaming the York, and there I remember during lockdown you done a bit of spoken word as well, you done a little piece and you done a cool little video to it, right? And I just wonder, do you think with lockdown now that this is something you might bring into your act? Now I haven't seen your act live, so or do you think do you think you might kind of go on a bit more of a kind of a different kind of route? Do you think it'll change your comedy is what I'm thinking, to kind of lockdown and being online with it? And even like the podcast, has that changed your comedy, like your stand-up?
Yeah, definitely. What I realize, like you said, the spoken word stuff, you realize that you don't always have to be laugh out loud funny. You have to be interesting. Like people have to go, oh, that's a good point. That's people want to enjoy watching what they're, so they might not necessarily laugh their heads off, but they want to watch, or as you say, it's sort of on and they can listen to it while they're doing something else, you know. And that, so again, it's that again, like, yeah, it has influenced my comedy. It definitely influenced the podcast. And doing, I do these videos now and again. They're called Walking with Wilson. Where I'm just chatting to my phone, and I'm just like plugging stuff that I've got going on, checking in with people. But I always forget that I'm talking to my phone, and I end up chatting all manner of stuff, just going, oh yeah, like I'm talking to a mate, and then I go, I'm talking to shit. You know, it's made me a better performer, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's changing everything.
Yeah.
Kilo, I asked guests in advance, you know, a little bit about, you know, what they want to talk about, and one of the things you said is about listening to podcasts, and you know,
big time, like
your mental health. So talk us through, if you want, you know, your sort of mental health over the last year and a half, and how podcasts and social media and things have affected that.
I think I'd really like, for podcasts, like it goes back a bit further than that. Like for me, especially, was start listening to the likes of Rogan about maybe like about 6-7 years ago, and then came across Scroobius Pip, and just I caught him around 68, I think, is episode 68. So it's a few years now. So I never miss Ritual. Wednesday morning, you listen to Scroobius Pip. He's just it, and he was the first one that really on his podcast you'd hear him talking about like really honest mental health stuff, like people like Kate Tempest, like, and you know, and just pure gifted people, like, and being straight up about like their emotions and being like the stress and the anxiety that they have. And I just found it jaw-dropping, like, that people would talk about this stuff. So I really kind of, you know, I would be on my own on the milk round, like, so I'd go around and I could do about 18 hours a week on my own in the van, like going around in the night. No one's around, like, it's pitch dark, delivering milk, you know what I mean? To be listening to the podcast on my own. And I got really big into it then, like, so a lot of then it was like Rich ended up on Hardcore Listening, which I was following because of Scroobius Pip. And when I heard him on that then you went and done Off the Beaten Track, which is another great episode.
Yeah.
And it was funny now, this is a mad one, and this is something that I find special about podcasts, is I was coming up on a really tough time around Christmas one year, and I actually went back and listened to that episode on Hardcore Listening, the 2 episodes of that, and then done the 2 listens of Off the Beaten Track, and hearing you and Stu becoming best friends meant kind of give me a bit of joy of this kind of it was like real familiar. It was like listening back to an old conversation or something, and I really enjoyed it. And I found then when you brought out your podcast, your approach to it of the just let's have a chat and go off, and then as you brought up already, the Michael Smiley, like, it's honestly it's podcast gold. I actually don't know, is there a better episode out there of a podcast? That episode, he is like, when the story with his mother at the end and all.
Yeah, isn't it? We were both in tears at the end. Yeah.
He's there and he's talking about just do one thing, and it's another thing done. And he's there, get up out of bed, and when you get out of bed, make the bed.
Yeah.
And I do that all the time now, or during the day, I'm going to go up and I'm just going to make the beds. And it's just to have one little thing done that you could be having a crap day and you're just like, oh, I haven't done nothing today, but hang on, I got out of bed. You know, and I did new things, you know, like you're giving yourself a hard time. And I found that with podcasts and listening to other people being exposing themselves in these stories, and on your podcast especially, Rich. Yeah, I just find that it's good to hear, like, you know, and then listening to someone like Blind Boy,
Yeah,
like, and he doing all the mental health stuff. That's next level. Like, for someone to do an hour monologue on a podcast every week, and for people to be tuning in, like, it's intense, like what he's doing, like, you know, it really is. Now that's game changing stuff there. Like, he is just like, yeah. If anyone's not listening to that now, actually, you have to be listening to Blind Boy. He's like,
oh, he's incredible. Yeah, Blind Boy is just so intelligent. He's so well read, and you can't help but listen to him. Every episode is amazing. Yeah,
he's just like, when you hear him doing mental health, he does it in such layman's terms. Like I've been to therapy myself, like, and I found, like, out of like 4 sessions, I learned one thing, and it was very helpful at the time, and it really got me through a thing. But it was like, I only learned one thing out of it, if you get me, like one little bit of information that really helped me, and it got me through that time. And I was there, and like my missus turns out and goes, "Oh, did you hear Blind Boy like there this week?" And I was there, no, and she's like, "I'd be really interested to see what you say after." And we came back after listening to it. It's like, yeah, that's me and my father at it, like, and Ash is just like, cracking up. Like, it's just, it explains so much from a podcast, like free information, and you're just kind of going, whoa, like it's crazy. It's the last bit of DIY, you know what I mean, that's left is podcasting. Small people, like, you know what I mean, like Rich, doing off the bat, like off your own back, like, you're not making fucking mad money, I'm sure, out of it. Like, it's, you know, like, and all right, you see, like, people have the goal of Joe Rogan and stuff like that, but like, it's, you know, be what it is, but it's the last bit of DIY, and if you can do it right, like yourself, and like the boys from Hardcore Listening are brilliant as well, like, you know, and I love that real kind of small scene with it, and I think it's very good for people's mental health. Like, listening to listen to other people that, like, you're not on your fucking own, like, you know,
It's that. Mine's like it's just like a pub chat. It's like two mates just chatting, and just by hearing someone else say, "I had this weird thought the other day," you know, and like, I got given a baby, and my first thought was to punt it over the shed, and you're like, "What's wrong with me?" Go, no, that's normal. Everyone does that. It's just.
Can I just say that?
Yeah.
Sorry. Robin Ince brought that up on your podcast last week.
Yes, he did.
And the way he said it, it's like a warning commercial. It's like a warning commercial. I was there, that's crazy. Like, you think you're a bad person.
Yeah. Human being. And your brain goes, "Oh, punt that over the shed," and then your other brain goes, your brain goes, "No, don't do that. This is what we do." And this all happens in like a split second. The thought was in, punt it, and then don't do that. And then look after it, teach it things, look after it, care for it, make sure it's loved. And this brain's going, punt it. You go, shut up. And that happens with everything, every thought, all the weird shit you have, all the weird wonderful things, the horrible thought will pop in, and then the good bit of your true self comes in and goes, no, that's not what it is. You know, like, because there's horrible stuff that's been pumped into you from elsewhere that you're having to deal with. You know, your brain's latched onto some saying or whatever, some bullshit from somewhere, and you're sort of like fighting with it within. Like, it's like it comes in, it's like, terrible things in your brain. You're like pushing it out, going, no. And that's just part of being a human being, you know. And so don't beat yourself up if you have a weird thought. If you act on the weird thought, then have a word with yourself.
That's a different story, isn't it? But I mean, we talked about that a little bit last time, in terms of there's all this sort of generational trauma that's come down from your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, and it's all sort of pushed down. And it's only really now, well, not necessarily this minute, but it's only really now that everyone seems to be more open and willing to talk about things. And certainly, I've been doing a show a few months now, and obviously, Rich, you've been doing yours a while. But it's amazing that people are now prepared to come along and talk about their real experiences and really difficult and, you know, horrible and you know, tragic experiences that people have dealt with. And it's a good world that we've been in, and I don't think it's just because of the pandemic, but I think we're moving forwards into people being able to open up and give them their emotions. And, you know, I assume you found that quite a lot with a lot of your guests. You know, have some of them surprised you with what they've sort of told you about?
Yeah. It's you realise that, again, no matter where anyone is, how successful anyone is, everyone's gone through something quite traumatic. And, you know, there's like you said, I think we're like the sort of the first generation of say for me, that we're the first generation that is now opening up and talking about things and asking questions. You know, like I've also, there's an offshoot of my podcast and saying the fembrain, because I don't know that much about women. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. So I've had conversations with women and asking them basic conversations like, you know, what does it feel like to have a period? What does it feel like to actually go through the menopause? What does it feel like to be on this constant cycle that you're on? Because women aren't on this, like, just this, it's not like a week out of them. It's like constant cycle. Have a baby. You didn't have a baby, right? We're going to prepare for you to have a baby. Oh, you didn't have a baby, right? You're going to have a baby. No. And I don't know that. And the only reason I know that is because I had conversations with people and asked those clunky questions. I think men are starting to open up now. They really, even my dad, who's 75 years old, opened up to me on Father's Day this year when something happened on the TV and he said, "Oh, this again." It's that mental health thing. You know, he said, "We didn't have this when I was growing up. We didn't have this." It was right, exactly, Lady Mel's. It does that, and I get it, and I don't know. Sorry, it is shit. But my dad kind of went, "Oh, mental health. Oh, we didn't have all this when we were growing up. We didn't need it." I went, "Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. That's why we've all got mental health issues now, because you lot didn't open up. You told us you had to be a man and you had to dig deep and do this. You didn't do it." And then suddenly my dad, 75, starts telling me about his mum and what an absolute horror show she was, and about his dad. And his dad might have been gay, and his mum knew about it, and she used to just punish him. And he stood up to his mum one day, and his dad said, "Don't do that, you'll make it worse." He starts telling me this story, and he dropped me off at the station, and I went, "That was the best conversation we've ever had, Dad." Because normally, because it's music is beautiful. It brings everyone together. That's why us are here now, is because of music. Yeah, you know, music is such a strong thing, and that's what's kept my dad and I together, like talking to each other about music, all manner of music. Have you noticed that all racists have shit tasting music? Anyway, doesn't that, right? They do though. They do. Because they didn't get brought up with decent music, so now they've got these horrible ideas. They're all homophobic, racist. That music will sort all that out. Anyway, but yeah, men are opening up now. We are getting better at it, and what we're doing now is opening the doors for the next generation. So we might not necessarily benefit from this. We'll benefit a bit. But our children and our children's children will benefit from the fact that we are now opening these doors and we're saying it's okay for you to find this tough. The world is a really shit place. It's hard. It's hard work. And we're animals. You're not supposed to fit into this. This is hard work. We're supposed to be just wandering around eating and having sex, but we're having to just go to work and we're having to make money for billionaires. It's bullshit. We don't fit into this. So, you know, we're hopefully others will benefit. There we are. So yeah, people are benefiting. We're making it. We're all talking to each other. They do learn it at school. They learn it at school now. Yeah, they do. So there we are. It's happening. It can only be a good thing. Sorry, I went right off on one then.
No, not at all, Rich. I was listening to the podcast today with Cobra K, I think it was.
Oh, K Kurd, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things you were talking about is the fact that he was saying, and this struck a chord with me, definitely, and some people know about it because of work, but that we're not designed to be going into an office and sort of being stuck there. And he was saying that because of people working from home at the moment, they haven't had to deal with it, and they're not saying they hate work anymore. What they actually hate is the commute and the sort of having to be with people you don't want to be with and all the rest of it. And that comes back to what you're saying about, we are generally animals. you know, and we're being told, right, go and sit in an office for 9 hours a day, you know, and you know, look at a computer screen. It's
not natural. It's not natural.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how things pan out, because I know you've got some companies saying, let's get everyone back into the office and go back to normal. And then I think a lot of people quite like having a bit of time at home, working from home and that. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out, because I think being in your own surroundings does help your mental health, even if it's for like a couple of hours a day, you know, if you're not stuck at work, it does really help. I
think there's room for both. I think you can do, they can do working from home a couple of days a week, going into the office, because you do need to socialize as well, you know, and that, it needs normalizing. It needs that, you know, you do need that social aspect of it. But the fact that, you know, whenever we've done the commute, you know, it's grey and it's boring and it costs a fortune. It costs money to get into work and back out again. And you leave your house at 7 a.m. you get back home at 7 p.m. and they are trying to force everyone back in, because of that. It's the travel, isn't it? They're trying to, it's the money that they're not making from the commute. You know, it's £1,000 a week or whatever it is to get into work, and they're not making money from that now. So that's what they're trying to do, I imagine. But I think there's a balance. There needs to be a bit more working from home and a bit more going into the office, just a bit, because, you know, we shouldn't be like they're making motorways wider, they're making train lines faster, they're making apartments smaller, they're turning this into worker bees. And I don't want to sound like some mad, like, you know, conspiracy theories. That's what it feels like. I don't need a big apartment, I'm hardly ever there because I'm always at work. It's like,
well, the next thing is having the apartment in the office. And then
they're trying to do that up in Dublin here in Ireland, in like these big kind of communal flats, like, and you'd have like your own room and you just have your bed in it, and like you'd all have a communal kitchen, like, and they're saying this is the way forward. This is what they're trying to change up in Dublin. Like, it's crazy here with housing and stuff like that. Like,
it's nuts. So, and it shouldn't. It's how you know it's just becoming pods, you know, and it's you know, and this is why, you know, it's good that we are having these conversations, because we all feel like, because we look at this and we go, but I disagree with that, therefore I must be the problem. But we all start talking to each other and go, no, actually it is shit to have to go and do that every day. It is shit that I'm spending nearly, you know, £500,000 on a 2-bedroom tiny box. You know, it's this, you know, you're seen as a decent citizen if you've got a good credit rating, you know, well done, you can borrow loads of money, you're a good citizen, you contribute to, it's like, it shouldn't be, there's got to be a better balance than what it is at the moment, you know. And
I'm hoping that, you know, there's been a lot of tragedy, obviously, and a lot of people have died, and, you know, a lot has gone on, but it's seeing the positives coming out of it at the other side of it. And, you know, hopefully this may be one positive where, you know, employers and employees start having these conversations and start reworking out how the best way to work is, because it's got to be good for your mental health. If your employees are happy, then your employer's happy, and it's, you know, it's going to be more gone a little bit off track, but I'm just going to bring you back a little bit, Rich, to one thing. It's quite interesting. Obviously, you said that was the first time your dad had told you about that. Is that because, does he listen to your podcast? Is it because he knows you talk about these things to other people that made him sort of talk to you about that? Or did it just come out of the blue? Or
he knows about the podcast. I don't know if he's ever listened to any, but he does know that I'm a big advocate for, you know, men opening up, and you know, that's what the whole podcast is about. So yeah, I think we just had a moment. It was just a really nice moment. I knew things from a story he told me years ago when he made some joke about when it was my nan's funeral, and he said, it probably wasn't. Oh, it was my dad's funeral, and he said, it probably wasn't him. It was something. It's about swapping with. Because my granddad was apparently a transvestite, so so that's what my granddad did, and my dad found it, like, walked around there one day and saw him dressed in his garments, and my dad made some comment about it later on, and so there was always I sort of had a vague idea that there was something going on, that there was a story to be told, and then when Dad sort of opened up and told me all about it, we had a real moment, and it did change our relationship for the better. You know, he really did own. Because, like I say before, we just talked about music all the time. It was like, oh, this band's got an album out, that band's got an album out. Like, we'd go and see bands all the time. I think the last band we went to see together was Public Image Limited. You know, when they played Camden. You know, it's just, and that's how we've bonded. That's how we've stayed, you know, in each other's lives in that way. So it was nice to have him talk about that. You know, and someone else just said in the chat that their dad opened up in his 60s and 70s. You know. And that's great. It goes to show there's no time on it. There's no time limit on it.
Yeah. That is as DJ Nico. She was on a guest on the last show from Canada. But yeah, it's I mean, like you say, it's sad in one sense that it's taken them to get to that age or to get to this stage in life before people can open up. But again, it's good that as a society we seem to be opening up and being able to talk about things. You know, I mean, I don't know about you, Rich. I mean, were you doing much of this before sort of lockdown in terms of talking about mental health, or is that something you? Because I mean, I certainly wasn't. You know, it wasn't until I spoke to some of the other DJs and they told me about their mental health and some of the things they'd gone through that I suddenly thought, okay, well, let's talk about this. I'm sure some of the other DJs will be interested to hear about it. So, and it's only then my mental health suddenly thought, okay, yes, I'm suffering myself, and you know, let me talk about that and talk to other people. But is it something that it's more recently you've been opening up, or?
Yeah, well, I think a few years ago. So a few years ago, before I was married, I was a bit crap in relationships. I was a bit naughty, and I was always mucking around and doing these things. And in having therapy, and then realizing a few things about myself, and knowing that I wasn't happy with who I am, because I wasn't mucking around because I was like being old Johnny, you know, big cheese. Oh, look at me, I'm doing it. I was grossly unhappy with who I was. I knew I could be a better person, and therapy got me to that point. So now I almost get a kick out of being brutally honest about everything about me. Like everything, I've spoken about everything about myself on the podcast, my sexual proclivities, things I've done in the past, things I'm not proud of, things I am proud of. I really like being honest and open. It really makes me feel good. And I've been described as being brutally honest, and I just am. And it's such a nice feeling. I've got nothing to hide. It's really nice, you know. And it makes it because I've been that way. Other people are open with me. They tell me things. You know, they tell me what they're into, and they tell me that. Because I struggled with what I was into growing up, you know, and it's not weird and way out there, but I thought it was weird, you know, and it was a problem. And then I had therapy, and they went, no, actually, that's pretty tame, mate. Don't worry about that. And then having conversation with people, they had a similar sort of thing. They grew up being into a certain thing sexually, and then they were like, they thought they were weird. And then we had to go, mate, that's not weird. You like to wear a sailor's hat. Don't worry about that. It's whatever it is, you know, being open myself makes other people more comfortable in my presence, like being the merciless in my company, you know. And I think that's how it should be. I like that. I like being honest. It's a wonderful feeling. I was such a lying little shit before. Unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely makes a difference. Kilo, you know, we talked a little about therapy, and you said you've had some, but it didn't really get to you, or you got one point out of it, but you preferred sort of podcast. But I mean, you know, was it a big step going in and saying you were going to have therapy and just making that decision to go and have it?
I think I knew it was going to be there at some stage. With realizing from from listening to the podcast that like it's something that people should be doing. Like it's not this, you know, what it was, like this shunned thing. Like, you know, I started listening to podcasts. Next thing, it seems like everybody's after having therapy, and it's like you're there going like, oh, maybe this could straighten me out. And I just went through a really, really fucking tough time, and just got to the point, and I was like, right, something has to change, because what I'm feeling is really, really not good. Like, feeling a lot of anger and stuff, and went and like, oh, it was massive now. It was massive what I'd done, like, but it was done after maybe the second time. Like, after the third time, then I didn't feel compatible with the person that I was dealing with. Like, I know that might seem a bit weird, because I did get something out of it, but I don't know. It was a very drastic change in my mindset after like the first two, and then it was just I kind of was there going, and things just kind of got right, like, so I just dropped off doing it. And then I kind of had a few problems and I went back, and it just didn't feel right when I went back, because I actually really was there going, like, I don't actually really have much to complain about, I kind of thought. But I kind of, at the time then, I start kind of, you know, just getting into actually running and stuff, and start looking after my own mental health in my own way, like, as in, I know what I'm doing wrong, like, I'm an adult as well, like, I know that when I'm like fucking being a shithead to myself, like, I don't, it just means like the week is just tougher, everything is just tougher, like, you know, and I do understand that, like, and, you know, yeah, just give yourself a bit more of a break. But I'm going back to therapy. I don't know. I think I kind of, I don't know, would I go back? But I do know that if I needed, I'd go back. If you get me, like,
Yeah.
if that day comes again, I know I'm not afraid to pick up that phone, like, and go, here, I need a bit of help here. Need to figure this out, because I know it has helped in the past. Like, it's definitely helped in the past. I think it's a great thing, but I think the whole idea of, like, just trying to be a bit more level. I do enjoy thinking a lot about it. So I end up in my own head, like, a lot. So I don't know. Maybe I think I'm figuring it out, but maybe I don't. I don't know.
It just goes round and round. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that we're here in 2021 in the UK talking about therapy, when, you know, it's been massive in America, and it seems, obviously we see it through the TVs and all the rest of it, but it seems like people in America have been in therapy forever, and it seems to be only now, maybe it's just because we're talking about it a lot more, that only now that people are sort of coming into it and saying they've been to therapy and getting help. You know, I haven't had therapy, I've had some counselling for some issues, but it's interesting that we're doing it. And Rich, you talked about therapy. I mean, you've talked about having it, and it sounds like it has helped you, and it's something. Would you recommend it? You know, would you recommend to people go and get it? And
absolutely, yeah.
One of the other things we've discussed in past shows is trying to find the right therapist, because people have, you know, perhaps got the wrong therapist and they've given the wrong idea or misdiagnosed people. We were talking about that on the last show as well. But, you know, what advice would you give about people if they need to go and get some assistance?
I would, as you've just said, don't worry if there's a common misconception that, you know, because you're having therapy, that's it. This person, you know, it's all about a chemistry between the two of you. You're building a relationship with this person, you know, and if it's not happening, then that's fine. You can say, look, I'm not really feeling this, and hopefully they'll just go, all right then, and then they'll maybe help you find somebody else, or you'll go and find someone else. But you don't need to, you know, it's like going dating, isn't it? You just because you're on a date with someone doesn't mean that this is going to be it. You might have a cup of tea and it's like, oh, I'm not really feeling this. And then you go and have a date with somebody else. It's the same with therapy. You might not find the right person straight away. I know I didn't. It took me another go.
Yeah.
And then I found the right person. We just didn't bond. We just didn't connect the first time. And that's all part of being human, isn't it? It's about our connections. You know, we need to be able to connect with people. So, I see people in the chat as well. They've had therapy today, and it's good, man. It's good that I would, if counselling, therapy, if you can, go and talk to someone. It's just getting it out of your head is so important.
It's just talking. You know, it's amazing, because I think, again, as a male, you sort of are told to sort of keep it in, you know, stay strong, don't talk about your emotions, don't do that. And I think obviously it's good that the barriers are now breaking down, and it makes such a difference just talking to someone. And like you said earlier, you know, having some sort of validation that what you're thinking is not just in your head, and it's not just crazy thoughts, and not just something that, you know, you shouldn't be thinking about, or, you know, oh, you know, I'm weird because I'm thinking this. You know, it's just that validation, and it makes, you know, it's very important. So just going to take a tiny break just to say hello to a few people, because a lot of people have been on the show already. So Lady Melzer was on a show a few episodes ago. 45 Finch is coming on the show on Sunday. We're doing a 3-day mental health awareness raid train, DJs from around the world. That kicks off at 6 o'clock on Friday night with Sam Tweaks and goes right through to Sunday. We've got my show again, 8 o'clock on Sunday. Got Mark Brand, Jamie Kimber, and 45 Finch, and then we've got DJs around. We're trying to raise money for charity this time round. It's Chris's House, which is a charity in Scotland, which is close to Ouija's heart, and they deal with helping families in relation to the aftermath of suicide and dealing with issues like that. So hopefully some of you can join us for that over the weekend. And yeah, Lady Mal's a good therapist, pushes you to re-examine things. It's scary, but a brilliant process.
Absolutely.
We've said hello to Double P. That's the CBT I think he's talking about. That's cheaper than the therapy. And that's AR Ouija. We've mentioned him, and Tea Cake. My wife's in the chat, which is quite nice. Jewel Bird. With some comments, and then we've got Fat Wax who's been on the show, and big shout out to everyone watching and anyone who's watching it. Kilo's nipped out for a minute, so we'll wait till he comes back. But Rich, so in terms of the podcast, obviously you've been doing it for probably a year and a bit now, a bit longer than that.
Yeah, 2 years. I think we're like 2.5 years now. We started it in February 2019, I think, was the first one that came out, and it's been incredible. That's the thing. I thought other people podcasts, other people did things, other people did comedy, and now I'm suddenly doing it, and it blows my mind. It not only blows my mind that I do it, it blows my mind that people like it and listen to it, and then I get to the people I've met from the podcast, like Kilo1977 and yourself. I've met incredible people through this podcast. It blows my mind, and I'll do it as long as people want me to do it. I love doing it. So,
well, that's the thing with that's the amazing thing about Twitter that I found is that we've connected with DJs from around the world. And everyone's. It's we've talked about it before. It's like a safe space, Twitch, and I imagine your podcast is again the same. People who are listening to it's not obviously not quite the same in terms of people sort of commenting. Sorry,
that's
Kilo?
Something there, like you say there, that Twitch is a safe space, and you compare it there to Rich's podcast. Rich on his podcast is always there going, reach out to me. You want me, fucking reach out to me, hit me on DMs, you know what I mean? Yes, and that's how I got to know him.
Yeah.
Hit him up a few times, chatting in the DMs, just sending mad stuff and then sending on music. Oh, listen to this, listen to this. And just, you know what I mean? And that was basically it. It was someone in the situation, having a bit of a bad day and you don't want to deal with somebody else. And it's just I'll send an old tune to Rich or something.
Yeah.
And you could send it off. And sometimes I said this to Rich at times, it's just sometimes you just want to send an old tune just to be doing something. To be reaching out, just to be saying hello, it's at 45s, we're all just oogling over each other's collections. It's great, and sharing it out, it's great, it's a great community.
Music's incredible. You sending me those tunes. It didn't matter what day I was having. I just get this message, and you're just going, "Look at this," and it was, or I'd mention something on the radio show that I do, and then you'd go, "Yeah, I heard you talking about this. Listen to this, and it was it was beautiful. It's a beautiful thing,
Yeah, I was talking to
music like that.
I was talking to Tommy T. I saw Butchie B at the weekend, which was great to see him in person for the first time, and Tommy T. But one of the things Tommy was saying is that he was explaining to a friend about how DJing on Twitch is people will comment if they like something, but if they don't like something, generally they don't comment. They just leave the room. So it's pretty much all positive. I mean, you get a load of spammers and people trying to said your followers and that thing, but not very much. But it is such a positive community, and everyone will go and support it. Even if it's for 5 minutes, you try and pop into other people's streams and just support them and say, hello, I'm here, good tune, or I'm lurking, I'm sort of got it in the background, and it's a real, it's I described it a little bit like going to your favorite pub and then just seeing which of your mates turn up to see you, you know, and it's a very different DJ. I know, Kilo, you were saying earlier about how you DJ, you know, you like to just get in and sort of lurk, and I'm a little bit the opposite. I'm sort of, I play a tune and then I'm just chatting to the, you know, in between and all the rest of it. And then you've got other people who are just scratch DJs, and you just got every genre, every style of DJs to play, and everyone's got their own little channel and their own little niche, which is it's amazing. You know, it is amazing. Right, let's move on to some music. You know, we've talked about it. One of the I think it was the very first show, I asked at the end of it, you know, if anyone got any questions, and Mark Lancaster, who again I got to meet up in person with in real life in Southend on Friday, came up with a question saying, you know, what 45s lift your spirits. So we've done it every show since, and I've asked guests to sort of bring 3 45s. I know, Rich, you're not quite with 45s, but you've got some albums that you can show us. Yeah. But Kilo, do you want to go first? Do you want to show us which 45s you've picked out to lift your spirits?
Right. This is my number one record, hands down. My number one record. This is it's tuned here by our dog Zero, because it's actually a 7-inch. It's actually, what's funny is it's too big a sleeve, because they DIY'd it, so they made it a 7-inch square instead of it being 7-inch diameter for the record, if you get me. So it's bigger. But this is probably the most played record in our house, myself and my wife. And there's a punk song on it, and it's called The Snobbery of Cool. And my wife used to joke that she would walk down the aisle to it. So I'd be friends with the boys. So I actually got in contact with the bass player, and he actually recorded the bass solo from the song, and she walked down the aisle to that of the song. I have a carved on vinyl there as well. So
I was going to talk to you about the carvers, actually, because you get quite a lot of carvers, don't you?
And then he, on the wedding day, he gave us the actual test pressing of the record. So it's the actual original of the 70s. Yeah. So that would be my first.
I don't think you can get any better than that. That's probably one of the best stories we've had about a 45.
Incredible. It's fucking unbelievable hardcore. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Oh yeah, scary stuff.
Before you go on, Kilo, hold on a sec. Before you go on, you've talked about carvers, and you always have you play stuff, and everyone's like, "Oh, I didn't know this was on 45." So tell us about your carvers. You know, how do you decide what to get carved onto a 45?
Right. So my carvers, right? Carvers are started. Rich, if you don't know what a carver is a carver is a record that I got made by a handmade record. So I'd send off a track, and I get it put onto 7-inch, or I'd put it onto 10-inch. Then if it's dance music, so I buy digital music. So everything that I carve, I always pay for. So either off Juno or off Bandcamp. So I buy their track, and I go along, and then I get it cut onto record. A lot of the stuff that I would get would not be on vinyl. I would definitely not be on 7-inch. I don't call anything that has ever been on 7-inch. I've never have. Like, if something's too expensive, I just don't buy it. So, but I carve a lot of my mates' stuff, like, and a lot of local bands and stuff. Like, and people, like, not everyone can afford to make a record, like. No. So like, I'm playing like in my, I have a box specially for carvers, and there's so much of them that are just like my mates' music, like, and like I'm playing like 10 inches, and it's like my own friends' edits and stuff as well, like, and it's also artists that don't get to put out music on vinyl. It's a big thing, like, and you know, and it's also then like, sometimes you just want to have something on 7-inch that nobody has, and you go along and you get like, I have the waiting room and all on 7-inch by Fugazi, like my own, you know, and you know, like, stuff like that, you know, should be on 7-inch, but like, I don't want someone to go along and, you know, edit that track for me to have to buy that track. Like, I find that hard sometimes if a good track that you've always wanted is on 7-inch and it comes out as an edit. And it's like, I still kind of want the original on 7-inch. So yeah, so I kind of, that's my rule on carving. But the big thing about it is just you can get fucking everything, man. Like stuff that was never brought out on vinyl. It's brilliant. Like, and also stuff that's like ridiculous money, like that's only on an album. Like, you know, looking for that Elvis Pocket Full of Rainbows. Came out for records, so I want one track. It's on the album. It's 45 quid, like, you know, just carve it, you know. Elvis is dead. He don't need my fucking money.
I'd never heard of that before. I didn't know I'd never heard of carving before. I didn't know that was a thing.
And the amount of people that have messaged back, like Mojo Filter and all, I use his stuff. I like Electric Mike. I message a lot of the people that I carved the record of and just be like, here, look, this is what I done. I bootlegged your record, like, you know, and you'd be surprised how many people would be, wow, that's cool. Like, and it's just, you explain to him, like, the reason I want this is I want to be out. I have a monthly gig. I want to be out playing your record when I'm out. Is that not a good thing? You know, is it, you know, like it's a funny one. It's a funny one, like the carving thing, like, you know, and it's weird, like, you know, some people have very different views on it, but that's my view on it anyway. Like, yeah.
But you're paying for it. You're not like stealing the music and then.
I'm not paying for it. Anything that I pay for everything. I always told my friends like this, and this is what I'd be saying is, I'm never so much money on it. Like, if Anton is there carved, it's quite possibly the album of it is there too, you know, if it was on record before. But like a lot of the stuff, as I said, was never brought out on vinyl. Like,
yeah.
And as 45s DJs, it's and you're watching other 45s DJs when they drop something, and you're like, I didn't know this was on 45, and then you're like, oh, of course it's a carver. You know, Kilo's playing it or Sam Twigs, but it's just part of the 45s culture. That is.
There's a DJ I know, and he's like the Northern Soul stuff.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous money, and he gets really excited when he's found, you know, like a rare one, and you're like, how much was that? And he goes, oh, it cost me $1,000. And you're like, yeah, what? I mean, I get it, and it's beautiful, but at the same time, I'm like, how is that $1,000, man?
And he's probably never going to play it. That's the other thing. Look, he's probably play that record.
Collecting it. There's a line with collecting. I'm not collecting. I'm making a fucking mixtape, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like collecting records to play them, like, and you know, like I look at records there, like, and they're worth a fucking fortune, but they're not coming out of my collection worth a fortune. They're like fucking battered, like, and you know, it's
these are soldiers. The soldiers going over the top every weekend. They're getting battered and bruised. Yeah, exactly. The Northern Soul scene is extreme when it comes to the prices, man.
I can say for fucking myself and Steve from the 7-inch Collective, and it's something that I think I could quite easily say is we spend more time in bins looking for tracks and we still pull out gold. Like, you don't have to be spending mad money, like, you know, we're like, mad into that, like, you know, the like small little things, like, you know, and it's just, it's very tough at the moment, like the price of stuff at the moment as well, like it's gone ridiculous. Like, and with all that Brexit stuff, like, oh man, like I was looking at, like, there's an extra, like, I buy a €10 7-inch now off of Juno, and I get €10 postage. It comes to with VAT and tax, like it's like it's €20 for a 7-inch, like, you know, it's hard to swallow, like, you know.
It's a lot of wedge, a lot of money, man.
It's a lot of money, and especially there's a guy in I think Bulgaria, on the 45 Kings, and it was a €10 record, €15 postage, and then it got there and it was €25 VAT and customs. So it's only €50 for a 7-inch record. I mean, it's just bonkers.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, it's like with albums. There's some albums I've spent in the past. 40 quid. I think I've gone up to. It was 40. It was like a 90s album that I wanted. But that's it. After that, you're like, I'm not spending 100 quid like on an album that I want to listen to. Like you said, like Kilo said, you want to play it. I want to listen to it. I don't want to. I'm not buying it to have it. I want to listen to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, sure. Like, man, it's very hard, that collecting thing, to be in, like, because there's this race to stay up with what's current, because stuff sells out all the time, and it's very hard to judge what's going to sell out. And it's very hard, like, as well, to be listening to something. Like, how many times have you listened to a record and gone, oh yeah, it's okay, and then you heard someone DJ and you go, oh, that's great, I want that, and you go back and it's gone. So if you're in the competitive race of 45s, it's tough. And then if you're buying niche stuff, it's hard, man, really hard. Yeah, I don't know. At times, I phase in and out of it. Like the carving thing is definitely something that I put more time and effort into these days, of getting edits and stuff. Like, I've a mate, I was just onto him there, and he's like 4 new edits for me to go onto carves, like, and stuff that I know that's not going to be released. And it's just, I'd rather go along and put my effort into that, and like, it goes back to the old thing of, like, Grandmaster Flash sticking the label on it. You want to have records that other people don't have, and if carving is the way forward and it's separating you from the bunch, I don't know.
Definitely the way. I'm not sure we're going to let you play on Saturday now. I'm sure you're going to get a big box of carvers out. You're going to surprise us all. Kilo, what's your second one? I could
do a couple of hours with the amount of carvers that take from me.
Yeah. What's your second 45 that you've got for us?
Oh, second 45 is The Uncluded, which is Aesop Rock and your one Kimya Dawson. And that was the record. That was the record that started the 7-inch collective. I believe, and myself would be we'd be pals, like, you know what I mean, throughout years, but never really kind of had much interaction with each other. We always like, hey, how you doing? Be in the same circles with stuff and all. And we were talking one day about records, and I was telling him about this because he had shared a file with all Aesop Rock stuff on it. And I was there going, oh, did you ever hear The Uncluded? And he was like, no. And I was like, oh, I got this on a beautiful green 7-inch vinyl, like. And he was like, oh, I love 7 inches. And I was like, oh, do you? And he is. And we started talking, and Steve didn't DJ, but he has this mental collection of 7 inches. He's just a mad digger, like, and he was just always collecting 7 inches. And we started the 7-inch collective. So yeah, that's the beginning of that. So it's a massive track too. Yeah, Delicate Cycle, good track. So, and my third record then would be
the third one.
Third one would be the original Rude Boy Rock by Line Rock. Nice. That's me. That's me right there. My daughter's Rudy. Everything's about the Rude Boy. But that Rude Boy big beats, that's what it is, man. Just absolutely blows my mind, that whole sound. It's like, so that would be the third record there.
So Line Rock's Monkey Mafia involved, aren't they? At some point, then
No, it's just
actually no, it's not. I think there's Monkey Mafia did a remix.
John Carter was Monkey Mafia. Yeah.
Sorry, they did a remix. Great. Well, great stories there. Thanks, Rich. Rich, what have you got? I know you haven't got 45. You got some albums, I think.
I have. You know what? Like, I was listening to that, and everyone. I imagine people in the chat as well. Like, you're all like, you got rare and weird and wonderful things. And now I'm like the albums I picked out. I'm like, these are just kind of.
Don't worry, I haven't got weird and wonderful. I've got interesting, fun things.
Oh, that's all right. Because I've got 45s, but like I say, they're all packed away in a box and that. But things like, I still like the fact I've got the Bravery, An Honest Mistake on 7-inch that came out. And when it came out, I wasn't that bothered about it, but I remember buying it anyway. And it's on like red vinyl. And I just love it. I love the song. I love the cover. And I'll tell you what, when I've played it at parties, I've played it at places, and people go, "Oh yeah, this," and then it goes off. People just have it. It's like you play if you're playing an 80s night or you're doing something like that, and you drop that, they go, "Oh yeah," because it's the same sort of stuff. It's very sort of 80s sounding. And people go, "Oh yeah," no. And then you can start moving into like another direction. It's not just you're not stuck in. It's a nice little one to get you onto the next sort of away from the 80s and onto something else. So the Bravery is such a tune. Yeah, it's a TK911. Absolute tune. But so I picked out some albums. One of the greatest singles ever put out. From start to finish, it's a perfect song for me. It's on this. It was by the Small Faces, Tin Soldier, and it's just got everything. It's perfect from start to finish. I've got it on 7-inch. They did a record store day, would have been 5 or 6 years ago, maybe. And I remember being in Melbourne. And I found this little record shop, and I was just rooting through, and I found they reproduced it, Tin Soldier, Small Faces, and I was like, I'm having that. That's an absolute tune. There's a bit in it where see, so in the chat I can see, yes, absolute classic, because there's a bit where it stops just for like half a second, not even that. The music stopped, and then the keyboards come back in, and then everything just comes back in. And there's something about a gap in a record, like in the music, just a brief pause, and then it opens back in. Ride got it as a song on their album Tarantula called "Dead Man," and they've got a bit where that stops with like a beat, and then it just all comes flooding back in again, and it's beautiful. It's such a great song. So yeah, "Dead Man" by Ride on the album Tarantula is a tune. That's a banger. So that was the first one. So Tin Soldier. I'm going to be rattling around about all different things. I just love music so much. It just gives me joy.
Go for it.
Fat Wax 45 met Steve Marriott a couple of times. Are you kidding? What? That's amazing. That is amazing. I did a gig at Kenny Jones's Polo Club, the drummer from the Small Faces, and it was very surreal. Very surreal. But the next one is Edwin.
Can I pause you? Hold on.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just going to do this before. Okay, so one of the things we've been doing is my daughter is 7 years old. She started DJing quite recently, and she's part of the 45 kids. We've basically got kids who do 45, and one of them's Minimal P. But he's got a comment. He's saying, "Can you let Ranganathan know his mum is funny?" That's from his son Minimal P. So if you can pass that on, I'm sure Minimal P will be very happy.
I'll tell him after this. I'll message you. I'll tell him. We'll chuff for that.
And Fat Wax, a couple of other things he said. So his dad, I think that's Steve Marriott, is it? Still.
Yeah. Who's your dad then, Fat Wax 45? But that was incredible. Steve Marriott, one of the greatest soul voices ever. I don't know. He was only about that big, and his voice was incredible. One of the finest soul voices that's ever been, bar none. Absolutely bar none. Who's your dad then? Who was supporting Steve Marriott? Man, that's incredible. That's next level. It's like my dad. When I have talk about music with my dad, and then he goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, "Well, back in the '60s, you got to see all these bands in like the bingo hall, and there's Chislehurst Caves. It's near where we grew up in Kent." And they used to put nights on there, and all manner of bands used to play down there. My dad saw John Lee Hooker at the Civic Centre in Orpington, he saw the Who in the bingo hall down the road.
They used to come to. I mean, I remember there's stories about place like the Who playing on the end of Hastings Pier, and all sorts. Like I was talking to Mike Lancaster as well, like some of the bands that used to play in Southend Cliffs Pavilion or whatever, and I just don't think we have necessarily those venues still anymore. I mean, I was talking to Kilo earlier on. I mean, I live in Eastbourne, and we just don't have a decent live venue to bring people in. We've got Brighton and Hastings, but you've got to travel. Whereas back then, you could just go, like you say, to your local bingo hall and hear these amazing bands.
Yeah. I think music will find a way.
Yeah.
All the venues, the sticky floored, patchouli oil stained venues that we know and love when we were growing up are all vanishing. But there'll be other places. Nature finds a way, to quote Jurassic Park.
What's your second one then?
So the second one. Sorry, Kilo, did you want to say something, mate? Just then.
No. Carry on.
Edwyn Collins is, for me, a phenomenal talent, and has been through, as we all know, such incredible hardship, had such a hard life and heartache. He suffered a stroke and a bleed on his brain, but then still, man. I mean, this is when I was always a big fan of Orange Juice, and then when this came out, and the song "A Girl Like You" never fails to get me up and jumping. That is such a tune, and even now I have everything he's got. He's such a phenomenal talent. Even after what happened to him, the man is a genius. I think he's a genius. I adore Edwyn Collins, and from Edwyn Collins, I learned about the band Joseph K, from way back, and then you go back and find out about, you go back down the street like with sampling. You find out, you go, oh, that was Labby Sifri. Oh, that was that. And then you work your way back, and then you find it's a wonderful education. DJ Keith Fowler, yeah, he is, isn't he? He's a classic. He is. I think Edwyn Collins is a genius, absolute genius.
It's like you're saying, it's joining the dots. Bands and sampling and hip hop. A lot of us 45 DJs are into hip hop, and we're also, a lot of us are into cover versions as well, which is interesting to see. Who's done a cover and when and all the rest of it. But it's something every day. Every day.
This is like I said earlier. I was joking about it, but I think people that grew up and not having a lot of music in their lives, I think it really music is really. It taught me about people of different cultures. It taught me about people from all over, from people from different countries. It's taught me about the oppression that people were put through, and the good things that happen, the bad things. All through my education is all through music. I think it's quite telling when you meet someone that isn't that asked about it. They have some very questionable views.
I think we've done. I think Lady Malza, I think, was talking on the last show, and about how there's some people who she knows who just aren't into music at all, and it's just a weird concept. Just all they just go out and just listen to whatever is in the charts or whatever happens to be the cheeky DJ down the pub. It's I don't know, when music's such a big part.
They're basic bitches.
But I think when music's such a big part of your life, it's difficult when people aren't into it perhaps at all. Here we go. Weirdos,
exactly. They are. But my last one.
What's your last one?
When this came out, it just spoke to me. It just told me it was describing nights out when I was younger, growing up in sort of southeast London, Kent sort of borders. All the things that this described. I could smell it. I could smell the late night chips after you've come out of some crappy nightclub. That you're covered in sweat. You got to get the night bus home, or you haven't got any money left, so you're walking home, or you've been taking stuff and you're still a bit off your head, so you got to find a park to wander around in for a couple of hours, or chat to your mates. But Original Park Material, it's just a stone cold classic. It's up there with Rubber Soul. It's up there, isn't it? It's up there with Pet Sounds. It's just everything.
The opening strings, and it's like the intro, and it's like it's relentless from it when it starts. Them strings come in, and it's off, and it's just it's such an intense album. It's such an intense album.
It's up there. It's definitely in my top 5 of all time. It's got the
confidence of punk, the punk element of it.
Yes.
Sorry. Sorry. It's the punk element of it, of just like minimal amount of production. If you listen to it, there's absolutely nothing going on in it, and it's just so simple, and it's stripped back to bare rock and roll, drums, guitar, and just absolute ripping it, like, you know what I mean? It's insane, like how little is going on in it, and it's phenomenal. There's an album just after coming out here in Ireland by a guy called Kojak, and he is literally recorded in the wardrobe in his mother's house in Cabra. And brilliant. I reckon it's going to be one of the most groundbreaking things. I'll send it on to you. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's that kind of attitude where it's like they're not doing like chorus and like verse. They're doing just something different. Like they're just a different flow. But yeah, sorry, Rich, you're talking.
No. This is great. I can't apologize, man. I can't apologize. I think it's you mentioned punk a few times. Punk there is like podcasting there's a punk element to that. Yeah. It's like you say, that DIY. Right, fine. Yeah. I know. I was talking to the comedian Steve Hughes, the Australian comic, and he was saying that he was in a death metal band because they couldn't get death metal music, so they had to make it themselves because they lived in they lived in the outback. You know, they had to do it themselves, and that's what I love about podcasting. That's what I love about. There's like people say, oh, you know, every time something bad happens, like, yeah, Sleaford mods are excellent, and yeah, let's put on our classics and have a little dance, shall we? It's just these things talk to me. Whenever things are shit, whenever things are like dark, and it seems like the world's coming to an end, music, there'll be a band somewhere that will pop up out of the gloom, Idols, and then the grime movement that burst into flames and came up.
Fontaine's DCs.
This is it. Fontaine's oh my, what a band. What a band they are. And then you've got Squid. They're blowing up.
They played on the same stage as them one night.
No.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good music.
Fontaine's DC.
Out of the gloom. How was that?
Because I work at a stage at the Electric Picnic. I play on the Friday night. I open the tent, and I usually book the tent for a Friday night. Big, massive tent at the biggest festival in our country is the Electric Picnic. Be about 80,000 people, and I close the tent then on the Sunday night. So, the guy who runs the tent, he's the last act, and the headliners are always on before him. So the Fontaine's DC's headlined like back to back, like really before, like they had but definitely before it was like really early for him. Yeah, Jerry Fish tent, like, so yeah. So really? Yeah, and so it's just like, yeah, they're like, we're like, what? I didn't know him, and it was just like Liberty Bell and stuff like that. Yeah, pretty amazing. Yeah. So yeah,
brilliant.
But like bands like that are pushing it. Yeah.
Yeah. The bands always will. They always find a way. There's another band sort of similar to sort of Sleaford mods called Benefits, and they've got some great stuff. And he's got one called Flag, which is just screaming. It's brilliant.
At the same weekend, lady, we seen Young Fathers, and we actually seen that Viagra Boys and Sleaford mods all in tents around us. That's honestly, yeah. We were over at the Prodigy, and it was like, oh, come on, I've seen the Prodigy a fair few times at this stage, and I was there like Sleaford mods are about to come on, so it's just went over to see Sleaford mods, of course, but yeah, and Young Fathers, that was my first time to see him. Yeah, and that, you know, that Bodega, that's another band as well, all on that, you know what I mean? And yeah, Idols obviously are just all that.
There's loads.
There is, you know, hard times make great music, big time. It's the truth. Like, you know what I mean? You have your specials, you have your 70s, you know that. Oh, there's such good music. You know what I mean? But yeah, definitely, yeah. TCR, 100%.
Oh, what tune? Yeah, there's loads like Parquet Courts. You've got there's a band called Yard Act. There's Sports Team. You know, there's so much good stuff out there. You know,
it's a matter of, I guess it's the ease with which you can make it as well now. You know, I guess back in the day, you had to make your music, you had to get someone who liked it, someone to press it, someone to put it out there. Whereas now, you can make it in an afternoon and potentially put it up, you know, on that. Lady Melzer said, "I listened to Rage Against the Machine." Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I got a 7 of Bullet in the head the other day.
Staple of the diet, staple of the diet.
Right, I'm going to go with I have to do this each time, so it's I sort of try and pick a little bit of a theme. So we did one of the shows we do is 45 Raiders, 45 minutes of 45s, and we had 4 DJs, and Sam Tweaks came up with the idea of doing TV, original soundtrack or movie themes. So I picked a few out, and I think this just takes me back to my youth. And yeah, I think every time I hear this, it lifts my spirits because it just reminds me of being a kid, basically. But I don't know quite why it's cut here, but I mean, yeah, I think as soon as you hear the opening bars of that, you know, everyone knows.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Classic.
Yeah, you can't. Even I can hear it in my head, and I'm like, Saturday night tea time.
Exactly.
Quality, mate.
This next one, unfortunately, it hasn't got a picture sleeve, which is a bit of a shame. It's always great when I have, but this is a theme for Monkey Magic.
Oh, no way. That's good.
Yeah.
And it's such a good, and there's like a little sort of intro before it, and it sort of builds up into sort of crazy electronic, and then Sonny goes into the theme tune.
Yeah.
Such a good track.
Monkey was immense, man. Oh,
that's an interesting comment, actually, Lady Melzer. I remember that kind of really bad mental health after, because obviously he was always portrayed as the one who was crazy, wasn't he? So
Dwight Schultz, I think his name was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think something, but yeah, I think that's probably right.
And I think he must be. If you imagine you're part of if something happens and you become the center of the universe in entertainment, you know, and everyone's you're up your ass, you're the best thing, you're this, you're that, and then suddenly that goes and it's on to the next thing. That must be quite a drop mentally when you're the center of the universe and then you're not. That must be quite hard to take. Because
the rest of them all sort of went on and did their own thing, but I can't remember him going on and doing. I don't know what he did afterwards. I assume he must have been in something, but I can't think.
I don't remember seeing him in anything.
And then my last one today. So I was going to play it on this show, but then Mark Hype played it before me, so I was a bit annoyed. But it's there we go. I don't know. That. Oh, what's going on there?
Oh, hello, look at that.
What's going on there? Something weird's going on.
Yeah, right. Picked up on the yellow. That's
not my house. I don't know why it's reflecting some weird.
That's mad. Some wonderful special effects.
What's going on?
Reckon it's someone else's house.
It's obviously something.
It's a portal.
That's really weird. Okay, well, anyway, let's do that instead. Monty Python. I'm doing it again. Monty Python. Always look on the bright side of life.
Excellent.
I didn't mean to trip everyone out, but yeah, again, that's a classic, and I think everyone just can imagine, watching the film, and yeah. So that brings us to the last section. I didn't check with you, Rich, if you'd managed to get some confectionery or not lined up. Oh, brilliant. Okay, I'm going to go with Kilo because I know he's a big confectionery fan like myself.
Yep.
So I'll be interested to see what I've got.
I got this, right? This is a hatchback, right? This is Irish, right? It's like a Rice Krispie on the outside and a kind of a dark nougat on the inside. And it's a real kind of cheap chocolate, but it's like about €1, but it's absolutely banging. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Dark nougat and Rice Krispies. That sounds good. And is that specific Irish chocolate?
Yeah. Yeah, Irish chocolate. And then we have.
When I was in Ireland when I was a kid, and do you remember Toffos? You used to get Toffos, the toffee things. And I remember being in Ireland, and they had the best Toffos I've ever eaten in my life. I was about 10.
Our recipes would be different. Well, like our product would be different. Like our Cadbury's would be different than your Cadbury's. Like
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it is. There would be different like that. Obviously, better like here. Obviously, I tell you, they're there. And the other thing.
Oh, yeah.
Uncoated Oreos. Have you tried them yet?
Yeah.
They're ridiculous. I can't keep eating because I've been eating all day. So, and
That box looks empty.
Yeah.
And the last thing is the simple, that dark milk. I think the milk.
Yes.
That milk from Cadbury's.
Yeah,
So that's my 3 picks.
They're good. Nice. Rich, what have you got?
Right. So the first one, controversial, but I enjoy this. I do enjoy this. It's not everybody's favorite. When I find these we get a box of celebrations. I go for the Maltesers.
Yeah.
And Bounty.
Yeah.
Love a Bounty. It's got to be this one as well, not the red one. I just think it's great, and I like the way they separate it into two. Like you're not going to eat them both at once.
I think they do them in triples now, don't they? Don't they?
Yeah, they do. And apparently, I mean, what psychopath goes? Oh, I'll have the other one later on. Like, no.
But you do get a bit more chocolate when you have two.
You do, but I just think I love these. A Bounty, yes, it's good times. The triple is the one. I couldn't get a triple when I was out, but the next one I've brought is a Star Bar.
Yeah.
And whenever I've introduced this to people, they've gone, "Oh, it's like a boost." No. Star Bar was the original and the best. I'm having it. Yes, exactly. Tea Cake 911. When you have a Bounty, you bite all the chocolate off of it, and then you have the coconut at the end. Yeah, this is an immaculate chocolate bar. Absolutely, the OG. Absolutely. So there we are.
Back in the day when they were in the brown wrapper and it was done like an 80s space theme Star Bar.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The wrapper tasted how the chocolate bar did. You know what I mean? It's like it looked like it. Yes.
Star Bars are banging. Still buy them to this day.
So this turned up recently. I was at a party with my flatmate, Mr. Paul Sweeney, and I couldn't believe what I found. So Ritter Sport, they do kind of like, I don't know if you get that in Ireland. It's like it's a bit more expensive than your average chocolate bar. But this has appeared, and I'll never go back. It's Ritter Bar, but it's cornflake. Yeah. You can't knock it. It cannot. This is just perfection.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I've never tried it.
You
must. I don't know what they called Ritter Sport though.
No, it's weird, isn't it?
What's the sport got to do with it?
See how quickly you become a fat bastard.
They do them in Lidl, I think, quite regularly, and especially around Christmas. They do. I think one's got like a marzipan version, and I think they do one with the speculum biscuits. You know, those sort of spiced sort of biscuits like you get for coffee and stuff like that. They do all that. So that. Yeah. And apparently, there's the chocolate mouse.
Chocolate mousse. Chocolate mousse.
The chocolate mousse. Oh, is there a chocolate mousse one? Okay. Right.
I'll try that. I'll find that and I'll try it.
What have I got this week? Okay, so sort of sticking with the Oreo theme that Kilo's in, I like these. These are called Pepero, but you can get them different versions. What is going on with my green screen? It's really weird. But these are like, so these got, I think they're like fake Oreo biscuits crumbled on top of white chocolate on top of like sticks. So they like, do you remember when we were kids, they'd have like, what are they called? Choc dips?
Yeah.
You get a little sort of breadstick effectively, and then you just be dipping it in the chocolate.
Amazing.
So yeah, sorry, Daily Miles, I wasn't having a go. Right, and then I saw these. I haven't tried these yet, but they look interesting. So these are Aero. What is going on with us? Trippy, it's really trippy. These are combos. So these are like chocolate balls with popcorn in them as well.
Oh wow!
Because my mate Adrian, who's one of the DJs in Original 45s who I DJ with, he introduced me. I'm sure other people have done it, but when we went to cinema once, was to get a load of popcorn and then get something like M&Ms or something, and then chuck it in the popcorn, mix it all up. So then obviously you're sort of munching away. And then this last one, sort of not like confectionery, but it's taken me till probably about a year ago. But I quite like dates now.
Dates are really good for you.
But it took me like until about a year ago to actually realise how much they are like toffee and how chewy and delicious. And they're amazing. You know.
Have you cooked with them yet? Like if you use them for like
some raw things together.
Yeah, if you get dates and all, like you can cut them all down and make like pure like nut bars and stuff with them. They're unbelievable. You can make caramel and all out of it. It's ridiculous how good dates are. Yeah. Like so versatile for cooking.
I think absolutely. Kilo, do a stream where instead of DJing, you cook with your dates. Do a live stream where you cook with your dates instead of
someone would have more chance of Rich doing
that. Someone just said in the in a tagine, that's nice, Lady Melza. Yeah, lovely. And someone else just said it was a Christmas thing. My dad had the dates, and I never wanted them, but I remember, Christmas time, and I remember I read somewhere. I went, if you have a couple of dates a day, it's really good for you. So I went and got some. And I was like, and I wasn't expecting to like them. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it because I've heard they're good for you. Putting that one in my mouth, I was like, what is going on? I've missed out on years of this.
I know, exactly. And they're really good. I mean, these are from a place in Reading where my brother lives. There's obviously different versions, different styles, but they're all good. Wow. Danny Bounce comes in with the joke.
Bounce straight off her, huh?
Here we go. In my younger days, I had a couple of dates a day. It skint me out. Yeah.
Here we are. I've opened the floodgates now.
Yeah, here we go. I make protein balls. There you go. A sensible comment from Lady Melza. Right. I think we're about there. It's been great chatting to you. It's been very funny. It's been a great time. Thank you again for being open, honest, talking about your experiences. It's been a lot of fun. I'm just gonna see. We just need to find, because normally we raid out some. I'm just gonna check. So I forgot last time. I'm just gonna see if anyone's DJing that we know that we can raid out to. Let's have a quick look. Northern Crate. Mixter Hoffman. Yeah, let's go and see Mixter Hoffman. I'm just going to set the raid going, and then we'll get this going. Do you know about raiding and stuff?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I have heard of it. There's a guy. I'm actually wearing his T-shirt. This guy, John Robertson, Australian guy. He's like the king of Twitch. And find him, John Robertson. He's a very funny man, and he does all that. He just goes and raids people's Twitch streams and things like that. So yeah, John Robertson.
Nice. Yeah, so we're gonna raid to him. So what that means is basically anyone who's watching in the chat will end up on Mixter Hoffman's channel. He's a guy in Germany who's got a record label, Cold Digging, and he releases quite a lot of really cool 45s. It'd be nice to sort of raid to him. Thank you everyone who's watched. Thanks to DJ Matty B, Lady Melza, Danny Bounce, everyone who's been on the show already. One of the things I haven't yet said, but if anyone wants to talk about mental health issues, then obviously there's lots of charities you can do that. Mind, Time to Change, Mental Health, Samaritan's Calm Zone. Like I said, in this weekend, we've got the Mental Health Awareness Raid Train that starts at 6 o'clock on Friday night and goes through till about midnight, I think, on Sunday night. So hopefully you can join us at some point during that, listen to some great music, hopefully donate. We're just raising awareness, really. The next episode of this is on Sunday, 8 o'clock. I'm talking to Mark Brand, Jamie Kimber, and 45 Finch. Hopefully some of you can join us for that. Otherwise, I'll see you on a DJ stream soon. Thank you once again, Rich, and thank you, Kilo. Insane in the Membrane podcast. Make sure you go and check that out. Kilo is DJing on the raid on Saturday night. Check him out. And thank you once again. If you guys hang on there for a minute, we'll end the podcast once we raid. And then we'll go from there. Right, 3, 2, 1.
Thanks, everyone.